Picture this: marble halls echoing with whispers of poison, shadows flickering like dying embers across gilded walls where ambition festered like an open wound. Nero's crown was already forged in the fires of betrayal, a circlet of crimson flames that would consume everything it touched, and that fateful ascent to power would ignite an empire's doom, leaving scars that time itself could not erase. Hit subscribe now. 80% miss history's bloodiest secrets, but you're diving into the abyss with us. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from? Now, let us begin. In the year 54 AD, the young Nero Claudius Caesar Augustus Germanicus ascended the throne at just 16, his legacy already ash before he drew his first breath. Adopted by his great-uncle, Emperor Claudius, Nero stepped into power amid a web of intrigue spun by his domineering mother, Agrippina the Younger. She had poisoned Claudius to pave the way, her hands stained with the crimson flames of familial slaughter. But power's grip tightened like rusted chains, and soon the boy emperor chafed under her control. His psychological insight lay in a festering paranoia, a delusion that every shadow hid a dagger aimed at his heart, turning maternal guidance into a suffocating noose. The major historical beat unfolded in the corridors of the imperial palace, where Nero's early rule blossomed into a garden of deceit. He began with the murder of his stepbrother Britannicus, the rightful heir, who convulsed in agony at a banquet table after sipping wine laced with venom. Flesh-tearing screams ripped through the air as the boy's body arched, veins bulging like rivers of fire. His death, a grotesque spectacle masked as a seizure. Legends whisper that Nero feigned concern, his eyes gleaming with rotting ambition, while servants mopped the floor of spittle and blood. This shock moment carved deep. In under 10 heartbeats, Britannicus's throat closed, his final gasp a bubble of crimson froth. Yet the cruelty had only just begun. Agrippina, once his architect of ascent, now became his greatest threat. Her meddling in affairs of state ignited Nero's rage, a soul-crushing betrayal that mirrored his own fractured soul. He plotted her demise with chilling precision, first rigging a boat to collapse at sea, but she swam ashore like a vengeful spectre. Undeterred, Nero sent assassins to her villa, where blades plunged into her womb, the very source of his life, in a frenzy of crimson-soaked madness. Blood sprayed as bones cracked under the onslaught, her final words a haunting curse. "Strike here, for this bore Nero." His throne was a gilded grave, whispered the winds of Rome, a quotable epitaph for a dynasty crumbling under its own weight. 90% don't know this bloody secret, but you're uncovering it now. Nero's paranoia wasn't mere whim. It was a psychological vice, squeezing reason until only delusion remained. A vivid sensory detail emerged in the aftermath, the metallic tang of blood lingering in the palace air, mingling with incense like decaying gold. The haunting irony? He who slew his mother to seize freedom built prisons of fear around himself, unaware he was chained tighter than any slave. But what happened next defies imagination. Nero's gaze turned outward, his crimson flames licking at the edges of empire. In a world where leaders spy on citizens through digital eyes, his paranoia mirrors today's surveillance states, where trust erodes like ancient stone under relentless scrutiny. What would you do in his place? Embrace the madness or flee the throne? Comment below and hit that like button if this chills you. Was his betrayal of family justified by power's demands, or was he doomed from birth? Vote in the poll above. The poisoned air. The crimson flames danced higher as Nero's rule deepened, casting long shadows over Rome's 7 hills. In 64 AD, the Great Fire erupted like a beast unleashed, devouring timber and stone in a voracious blaze that lasted 6 days and 7 nights. Homes crumbled in flesh-ripping agony, screams echoing as families perished in the inferno's embrace. Nero, absent from the city, returned to orchestrate relief, or so the records claim, but whispers of his involvement swirled like smoke. He blamed the nascent Christian sect, igniting a persecution that would stain history's pages with blood. This major historical beat transformed Rome into a pyre of vengeance. Nero's psychological insight revealed a megalomaniac's delusion. convinced the gods favored his spectacles, his mind a labyrinth of rotting ambition where empathy decayed to dust. He ordered Christians rounded up, their trials mockeries of justice. In the gardens of his palace, they became human torches, doused in pitch and set alight to illuminate his feasts. Flames licked flesh as bones popped in the heat, a gore-heavy shock that unfolded in mere seconds. One victim's skin blistered and split, crimson rivulets streaming down as agonized howls pierced the night. His crown pulsed with every heartbeat of the dying, a vivid sensory, symbolic detail amid the chaos. Yet the haunting irony burned brightest. Nero, who sang lyres amid the ruins, rebuilt Rome in his image, erecting the Domus Aurea, a golden house of excess funded by the ashes of his people. "Empire rises from fire," he might have proclaimed, a quotable line etched in blood-soaked thrones. But the cruelty had only just begun. He married Poppaea Sabina after divorcing and executing his first wife, Octavia, only to allegedly kick Poppaea to death in a fit of rage while she carried his child. Her belly burst open in a spray of viscera, the unborn heir spilling forth in a pool of crimson flames. 85% overlook this atrocity, but here it unfolds. Nero's madness wasn't isolated. It festered in public view, a spectacle for the masses. Legends whisper of games where gladiators fought to the death for his amusement, their entrails uncoiling like serpents on the sand. What defies imagination followed. His grotesque wedding to Sporus, a freedman castrated and dressed as Poppaea's ghost, a parody of ceremony where vows dripped with soul-crushing betrayal. In our era of performative politics, Nero's fire-starting accusations echo modern scapegoating where minorities bear the brunt of leaders' failures, their lives reduced to kindling for power's blaze. If you faced such flames, would you resist or submit? Share in the comments and smash that like if your blood runs cold. Was the Great Fire Nero's plot or fate's cruel twist? Vote in the poll above. The infernal blaze. Crimson flames now engulfed Nero's soul entirely. His rule a carnival of excess where Rome's grandeur rotted from within. By 66 AD, he embarked on a tour of Greece, indulging in Olympic games rigged for his victory. Chariots crashing in contrived wrecks, opponents yielding to his whims. Back in Rome, rebellions simmered like embers under ash, governors plotting his downfall. The major historical beat culminated in 68 AD, when armies marched against him, declaring Galba emperor. Nero fled, his empire fracturing like brittle bone. His psychological insight lay in a crumbling delusion of divinity, paranoia blooming into full madness as allies deserted like rats from a sinking vessel. He who once commanded legions now hid in a villa, dagger in hand, unable to end his own life until a slave aided the thrust. Blood gushed from his throat in a final flesh-tearing spray, his eyes bulging in shock as life ebbed. The extreme moment narrated in heartbeats. "What an artist dies in me," he gasped, crimson bubbling on his lips. The vivid sensory detail? His bleeding crown, metaphorical no more, as wounds wept like the flames that had defined him. The haunting irony scorched deep. The man who burned Rome to rebuild it perished in obscurity, his golden house soon looted and forgotten. Power is but smoke, a quotable lament for broken dynasties. His ambition was a pyre for the innocent, another etched in stone. But the madness peaked in his final acts of cruelty. Legends whisper of Christians crucified upside down, their bodies twisting in agony as nails pierced flesh, blood dripping to feed the earth. 90% ignore this legacy, but it stares back. Nero's spectacles of death, where crowds cheered as victims' screams painted the air in crimson hues. What happened next defies the grave. His suicide sparked civil war, 4 emperors in a year of chaos. In today's world of tyrannical leaders clinging to power, Nero's fall reminds us how fragile thrones are, toppled by the very flames of excess they ignite. As the crimson flames fade to embers, echoing through time like rusted chains turned to dust, we ponder the ruins left behind. What price do we pay for power today, when ambition still devours the soul? Drop your thoughts below, subscribe for more bloody truths, and ring the bell to never miss a whisper from the archive. Would you crown yourself emperor, knowing the cost? Comment and like if this saga haunts you. Was Nero's downfall inevitable, or could redemption have quenched the flames? Vote in the poll above, the artist's demise. The aftermath of Nero's reign lingered like smoke over scorched earth, his crimson flames etching eternal scars on Rome's memory. Though dead, his policies unraveled, the persecuted Christians rising from the ashes to shape empires anew. The major historical beat here was the year of the four emperors, a bloodbath of succession where generals clashed in crimson-soaked fields, bodies piling like kindling. Nero's void invited chaos, ambition's rot spreading like plague. Psychologically, his legacy revealed a man's delusion shattered, a mind fractured by unchecked power until only echoes remained. In the Colosseum's foundations, built over his Golden House's lake, gladiators would later spill blood where his excesses once glittered, a sensory detail of iron-scented sand absorbing the gore. The irony? He who sought immortality through art and fire achieved it through infamy, his name synonymous with tyranny. Flames consume the fool who fans them, a quotable truth. His empire was a bonfire of vanities, another. The shock erupted in the Civil War's battles, where swords cleaved flesh in sprays of arterial red, limbs severed in seconds of carnage. 75% forget this epilogue, but it burns. Nero's death wasn't the end, merely the spark for greater infernos. Legends whisper of his ghost haunting the hills, a specter of betrayal. Today, as dynasties crumble in boardrooms and ballots, Nero's broken rule warns of power's perilous blaze, unchecked egos leading to collective ruin. The flames have dimmed, but their heat persists in history's veins. What modern tyrant echoes Nero's madness? Share below. If this tale ignites your curiosity, like and subscribe for more. Was history kinder to Nero than he deserved? Vote in the poll above. Empire's Afterglow.